name is Lou, and these are my books. As you can see, my hair is a bit different, but you know, that's nothing at this point. You've seen it before in my older videos. We don't talk about my older videos. Anyways, today I'm bringing you another book tag. I've been really enjoying doing these actually because it's giving me a chance to really think about what I like to read and like what I choose not to read, what I choose to put on my shelves, what I choose to put on my TBR in general. So I really like doing these because it gives me a chance to think very critically about the books that I've been reading and books that I want to pick up. So today we're bringing you the Anti-TBR Tag. I don't remember who this was started by, but it was not started by me. I'm just going to say that. And it's essentially a tag full of books that you will not be reading. I technically already did this in the books I will never pick up video that I have. I'll link it in the card somewhere. However, I think this is going to be more of like a curated list because that was just all of my shower thoughts. And then this is just going to be some very like critically reasons as to why I'm not going to be reading these books. So without further ado, let's get started. All right. So the first question is a popular book everyone loves, but you have no interest in reading. See, this one wasn't too hard to think of. Because there are so many popular books right now that I have literally no interest in fucking reading. Oh my god. Just because I feel like a lot of what's being like fed to me has been mass produced, you know? And so I'm just like I'm sitting here, I'm like, nah, no thanks. So this one wasn't hard. It was just kind of hard to choose which one to pick, really. And I think what we're going to go with will be From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. See, this one feels obvious, but it's one of those books that the more books it gets, the worse the criticism is. And I find it absolutely hilarious because books 1 and 2 were so loved. And then onward from that, it's just like decline in quality from what I'm hearing. So I'm just like, I'm not going to invest myself in characters that will get progressively worse the more I read the books. You know what I mean? You know? So if you don't know what that series is about, I honestly barely know what it's about, but bear with me. We're following the story of this woman named Poppy, who is a maiden, who is essentially kind of like the top religious figure within this world, within the, you know, all of the things. And essentially she is someone who is like not meant to be touched. She's kind of like the Pope, a little bit. Female version of the Pope, right? And then it's like a bodyguard lovers trope with like a bunch of like ACOTAR / Throne of Glass kind of mess thrown in there. And I've heard that the relationship is really troublingly similar to Faceand. And honestly, I'm like, don't try and be Faceand if you can't be Faceand. That's my whole thing. I just have no interest in reading the books because I know like either A, I won't like them, and B, if I do really like the first book and I decide to continue on with the series, I know that the quality is going to be in the toilet. So yeah, no, we're not doing that. Next question. A classic book or author you don't have an interest in reading. This one was a lot harder actually because I do have a lot of interest in classic authors. I've read a lot of Shakespeare. I've read a lot of, Charles Dickens. I've read a lot of Charles Dickens, and I've been meaning, and this season, I really want to read Dracula, just as like a Halloween-y book kind of thing. I even have the audiobook, so I'm like fully prepared to read Dracula, honestly. I even picked up Little Women a little while back. However, this book, I don't know why I have it. I have a copy. I'm not getting it down because I don't care enough. I just don't know why I have it. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain. See, I picked up this book just because it was a classic, and it was also like in a free book box in my school, in high school. I had no clue why I picked it up. I just kind of wanted to just fill out my shelves. I think that's what it was. Because at that point, I was really just about filling out my shelves with things. However, with this book, I have no clue what it's about. And I actually like looked up a description a little bit, and people are saying it's very similar to Don Quixote and Hamlet. And I'm like, sorry. So some of the greatest like comedies are being compared to Huckleberry Finn, right? And I'm like, yeah, it's probably okay. That's why it's a classic, yes. However, I've already read Hamlet, and I don't really plan on reading Don Quixote. I've watched the Overly Sarcastic Productions little video on it, and honestly, that was fucking hilarious. But like seriously, Don Quixote reminds me of the Spanish Inquisition. But anyways, we're not talking about that because that's a melding of history, and we're not doing that today. So, I don't plan on reading Huckleberry Finn anytime soon, really. I'm probably just gonna get rid of it. I need to do another sweep of my shelves to see what I actually want to get rid of. Because, like, I did one earlier this summer, and I would just, like, it was just a bunch of books, right? But I think I need to do another one with all the classics that I have, because I have a lot of classics. And honestly, I've been meaning to replace some of the copies I have because they aren't, like, pretty. Like, there are prettier editions of the classics that I have that I actually want to read, that I can put on my shelves. So I'm going to need to just wipe. Moving on. A problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. This one feels very obvious to me because immediately when I thought problematic author, I thought Colleen Hoover. And I specifically do not have beef with Colleen Hoover. I'm sure she's a perfectly lovely lady. However, I have beef with what she writes, and what she writes is not correct. Like, I've said this before, Colleen Hoover ruined the contemporary romance genre for me. I'm okay with fantasy romance. I'm okay with it. But contemporary romance, she very much just ruined the entire genre for me with her book November 9. We've had this conversation before. We're going to have it again because I need you to know. Having a book that was, at the time, I was 12, at the time was considered YA, right? Having that book that was considered YA, include the I also watched Crimson Rouge's thing on it because, like, I needed to see what this man would say. And Crimson Rouge, he put it perfectly. This book is an incel's dream because, quite literally, our main character, what's her name, Fallon, has literally no personality beyond the fact that she is kind of like half obsessed with who's the guy? I forget his name. All I remember about this guy is that he was literally so freaking pushy. Like, he was so pushy, and like when I watched that video, I was like, oh my god, I cannot believe I forgot how creepy this guy was. I'm literally, like, he was not in any way possible any kind of romance male protagonist he should have been. He was just kind of like there to be creepy. And then there was this other guy with the whale pants. I forget his name too, because he didn't have much of a personality either. But like, I just, with that book in general, you don't have someone burn someone else's house down. The woman, she is righteously pissed because she now has scars that correspond with this fire that he set, right? Right. He set her house on fire. She has burn marks all over the one side of her body. She is traumatized, right? She gets a restraining order against him. He breaks the restraining order to send her his manuscript of the book he was writing about their relationship. And then she goes up to meet him, also breaking the terms of the restraining order, and forgives him. No. Negative. Negative. No. No. Crimson Rouge, thank you for giving me that recap because it was 3 hours of entertaining bashing on this book. Anyways, we're going past November 9. Okay, so Verity. I've seen reviews for Verity, and I'm sitting here like, how was this correct in any way? Because the way this book is structured, it has a fairly interesting concept. Yes, however, it's not done well. I don't get it. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who actually wants to read it, but like, honestly, I've already I've watched spoiler reviews on YouTube, mainly from Cindy B. Reads. Cindy Reads I forget her new handle, honestly. But she's like, but honestly, I just like, the way this book just feels, to me, it all feels just kind of like the weirdest kind of acid trip you could ever really have in a book, really. Because I've honestly, like, the intention of the writing exercise that Verity does is fine, I guess, but like, it also just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? Anyways, Colleen Hoover's writing never makes sense. Her stories, mainly her character work, I think is what bothers me, really, because her characters are usually either really bad or really bad. The character work sucks in her books. I'm just going to say that. And if you don't have good characters, you can't really have a good story because the characters are what's carrying the story. You know what I mean? An author you have read a couple of books from and have decided their books are not for you. Okay. So this one was honestly kind of hard. I haven't read these books, actually. However, I do know for a fact that these books are going to end very badly if I get invested in them now. And it's the Children of Blood and Bone thing by, what's her name again? What's her name? Tomi Adeyemi. The books are literally sitting right there behind me. Hold on. Children of Blood and Bone. This is a great cover, honestly. I'm just going to say that. I haven't pulled this book out yet, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. See, this book is amazing. This book looks great. I personally, though, I've been seeing what's going down with Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So I'm just here kind of like, maybe I won't start this series. Because honestly, I don't know how many books this is getting. I really don't. And I don't really want to look it up. However, I was excited to start this book, which is why, because my mother got me Children of Virtue and Vengeance from the airport a while back. And so I decided to get the first book because that was the second book, obviously, because I'm a completionist like that. But then I saw what went down with Children of Virtue and Vengeance, and I was already skeptical. Of going into the series a little bit, because Children of Virtue and Vengeance is so much shorter than Children of Blood and Bone. And I was literally sitting here like, ¿qué? What, why? Because in my opinion, second books in series should always be longer than the first. Or at least just like slightly a little bit longer than the first, because this is a world where the reader has already been introduced. This is a world where people actually have a grasp of what's going on, so you don't need to explain so much, and you can focus on moving the plot forward. And there is usually a lot of plot to be had, but in a second book, for it to be so massively short compared to the first book, I was already skeptical, so yeah, I don't think I'm going to do it. I've also read like maybe a couple of pages, and honestly, the writing style just like I don't vibe with it. I really don't. A genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. See, I'm not very picky about genres. I'm really not. It's mainly just the writing. It's mainly like what you actually have to feed me that I really, really am invested in. However, a genre that the only thing that I would say is that I struggle to ingratiate myself with certain genres. Specifically sci-fi. Sci-fi as a genre is really good if it's done correctly. So, and this is why I'm going to say this. Genres have to be done correctly for them to work in a specific setting of a book. It's not just and sci-fi specifically has such a limited mold, actually, because literally all the sci-fi books I've read, from The Hunger Games, which actually was what got me into reading, to even the Lunar Chronicles series, to everything else in between. All of them have the same mold of actively there is a corrupt government, now you overthrow it. Right? So with sci-fi, you have to be very careful about how you do it, or else it's going to end up as kind of like a copycat of either Divergent or The Hunger Games, and that's just not it really for me. I struggle getting into sci-fi because if I feel that something is trying to veer off into into the oblivion that sci-fi is destined to really be in, it's just like there's kind of no other way to really say it other than sci-fi is very generic. And as a genre, it's fine as long as it's done well. Neil Shusterman is a really good example of how sci-fi can be done very, very well. Because he doesn't take the whole overthrowing the government thing. He says overthrow a part of the government. Right. In his Arc of the Scythe trilogy, I'm pretty sure that's an overthrow the entire government kind of thing, because of how the plot is. However, with his series, The Unwind Dystology, it's not even like about overthrowing the government. It's just kids wanting to live their lives, you know? And that's what it focuses on. However, it focuses on literally different little aspects of that. I like the way Neil Shusterman does sci-fi, because he will not only focus on like our main cast of characters, but add other characters in there to give the story more depth, to give the world more of an inside view and make it feel more realistic. Because again, sci-fi is legitimately, no joke, sci-fi is legitimately just our world reimagined with more technology. And with the Unwind Dystology, literally, he demonstrates, oh my God, this was so good. It was infuriating, but it was so good. Neil Shusterman demonstrates the growing of a cult. It was great. It was amazing. I need to go back and read that series. Oh my God. But sci-fi I struggle with, I just struggle with it because it has such a limited mold. Moving past that. A book you bought but never read. I have so many of these. But hold on, let me grab it off my shelf because this is gonna be so bad. This is gonna pain some people because I do plan to read it eventually, but it's been on my shelves for maybe about 5 years. To Kill a Mockingbird. Okay, listen. I have every plan to read this book. I do. I just have not gotten there yet because what I want is to get a new copy of it. Because this copy, it's in better... Listen, I originally had a mass market paperback copy of this, and now I have this copy. However, this was from that free book box thing at my high school, and it still has an elementary school library ticket on it. No, it's a high school. Anyways, it's like the school library little barcode thing on it. So I personally, I want to get a brand new copy of this just so I can read it and everything. It even has it in the back. But anyways, I do plan to do that. I just have not gotten around to it. Anyways, a series you have no interest in reading, or a series you started and have DNF'd. So this is tying back to my sci-fi argument. And you are gonna be pissed with me. The Shatter Me series by Tahara Mafi. Oh God. Okay. So context. I've read Shatter Me. I loved Shatter Me. Shatter Me was really freaking good. However, I started not Ignite Me. It was not, I can't even see it from here. I started the second book, right? And everything was the way it started was so wildly different from how Shatter Me ended that I was literally just like, what the actual fuck? So I stopped reading it and I never went back to it, and it's been about 7 years. And honestly, at this point, I kind of don't even want to like pick up the rest of the books and actually read the series, because what's happening with these books is that all of the paperback editions, and I mean all of them, have this little sticker thing on it, right? Where it's literally like author of this woven kingdom. And I'm like, I just don't want those on my books. I may pick up, though, this Woven Kingdom series. I actually might. Because I haven't seen it. However, I might actually pick it up if it's actually being advertised on her debut books. If it's being advertised on her debut books, I might as well pick that up and see what all of that is about, really. Because I've heard pretty good things about it. I haven't actually heard like a description of it. However, I've heard pretty decent things about it. And there is a really pretty edition from Illumicrate. Anyways, the original books are really pretty too, though, honestly. So, anyways, I just, with Shatter Me as a whole, I liked the first book. I really did. Things just moved at like a frenetic pace with that book. I really did enjoy it, actually. For the time that I read it, I really did enjoy it. At the time that I read it, it was still just a trilogy, right? But with Ignite Me, the way Shatter Me ends is on a very decent note, but the way Ignite Me begins, it starts off on like a really, really strange backtrack to how our main character was at the beginning of Shatter Me, and that's never really explained. And I just kind of I was like, okay, I'm not really that interested. So I stopped. So I put the book down, and I was like, I'll come back to it. That was 7 years ago. So no, I haven't come back to it. All right. And the last question is a new release you have no interest in reading. See, I have several for these. However, I'm not going to go with the obvious answer, which was A Court of Silver Flames. However, my new answer is Iron Flame. The sequel to is Iron Flame, the sequel to Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. If you have not seen my video on me ranting about Fourth Wing, go watch that and you'll understand why I don't want to read Iron Flame, because there are problems. There are some serious problems with Fourth Wing. I'm just going to say that. However, Iron Flame specifically bothers me because it was announced literally, I think maybe 2 or 3 months after Fourth Wing came out. And even if, and Fourth Wing came out in May, right? And Iron Flame is coming out in November. So that's a little bit more than 6 months that Rebecca Yarros has to write this book and make it a passable sequel to Fourth Wing. But Fourth Wing wasn't even that good. So I'm just going to say this. 6 months is in no way enough time for anybody reasonably to craft an entire novel, right? That's enough time for maybe a rough draft of maybe a 300-page novel, but for a full novel, a full sequel to a novel that blew up as big as it did. 6 months of that? I do not think so. I'm already skeptical. All right? I'm already so skeptical. But anyways, that brings this video to an end, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. And if you want to see more of my content, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified every time I post a new video. I post weekly on this channel, so don't miss out. Also, if you want to see it, comment down below if what you want to see from me, the books you want me to read, books you want me to put on my TBR, books you think I should pick up. I always get really excited when I see your comments. I always makes you feel so happy and appreciated. Anyways, guys, I love you, my little Lumas. Bye!